during this live stream, and that's okay. I'm kind of doing it in like a random area that I have claimed to be my own because I've peed around it. Anyways, I wanted to talk about fear today and how it motivates you. So I've been reading a book by Nair Isle. Maybe you know the famous author. It's called Hooked. Now this book, I had to read, have to read it for class, but I was really curious about it. I read his other book, Indistractable, which is really good for those that have ADHD and just want to focus on what's going on. I'm gonna be eating my sandwich, which is Easter bun and cheese. I have some salad dressing left over from the carrots I was eating earlier, and I got my drink, which is mint tea from last night and some passion fruit juice. And it just kind of works, you know? It just kind of works. I feel healthy drinking it, I think. Anyways, so fear will motivate you. It absolutely will. After, reflecting on, that beautiful book by Hooked by Nair Isle, and listening to his TED Talk, which you can watch here on YouTube, watch it after this maybe, you realize a few things. First off, a habit is just something that you do unconsciously, naturally, because your body knows the trigger and it knows the information, the action to take. And that's really cool. Now, what happens when you're afraid? Well, I feel like a survival mechanism is that you want to spend as much energy surviving, and it just goes through the cycle of when you get triggered, your body is like, oh my gosh, danger, I'm afraid, and then you go into this zone of automatic movement. And so fear will motivate you to act. It will motivate you to do things. In fact, if I'm being honest, I think a lot of my manifestations, if I'm being honest, may stem from that fear. Fear of what happens if the world goes south. So these manifestations kind of come from, most of these actually just come from, what I believe God is telling me to do. But there are certain motivators, like I was motivated to get a job because I was afraid I would have no money, and then I wouldn't, be able to afford my phone or, gas for my car and all of the stuff. So, fear is a motivator, and that's what I'm learning. And every single emotion has a purpose. So I think it's important to kind of question, what's the purpose of fear? I think that companies, and we saw this really effectively used during the pandemic, it was used to get people to comply. That idea of fear was used to kind of incentivize what motivate people, drive people to do something that the party that was inflicting this fear wanted them to do. So that's kind of what's coming up for me. I'm gonna dip it in here, guys. This is, if anybody ever eats Easter bun, it's probably like a weird combination, but I didn't really like that much, so I'm gonna close it. So I guess I really wanted to go live to just talk about this factor of fear. Fear gets people talking. In a Facebook post, or even out here on YouTube, when you're reading through the the comments, how many times, when do you feel inclined to comment most? Probably when you're upset, probably when you're mad, probably when you're angry. Those negative emotions are a higher driving force and motivator than the positive ones. And this is so important, I feel, to know, and this is why I'm making this video, so that I can kind of bounce it back with you, get that feedback and deepen this understanding that fear actually is a big motivator for moving things in the physical more than the higher vibrations. Because the higher vibrations are great up here, when you are meditating, when you're visiting spirit guides, when you're praying, when you're connecting to God, source, oneness, consciousness, it's important. But when it comes to actually doing things in the physical, like you go to work because you're afraid of losing your job. You know, it's kind of like that. You know, the thing that moves the physical, I think, is a big part of the fear. All right, this isn't to like romanticize fear or try to get more of it in our lives, because I don't think that's necessary. But I do feel like we should be aware of how it's being used in our life. What's up? Best. I'm here. You're here. So, I really try to spell your name. I had to say it out loud, and that's what it looked like to me, fam. I definitely butchered it, but yeah. So yeah, I think that positive vibrations is Jeff. I could not tell that from the username at first, but now that you've said it so simply, I can totally see it. What's up, Raymond? What's up? So yeah, like, I think fear is powerful, man. Thank you, I am. Fear is powerful. And I guess I'm trying to figure out how not to be afraid of the emotion and use it in a way that is helpful. I don't want fear to cloud my judgment and cause me to do the opposite or exactly what I was fearful of doing. So that's why I feel like it's so important at this time for myself and maybe you to just be aware of the fear in your life and how you're interpreting it and how you're using that, because it is a motivational force and it does this without you even realizing it. Like, it's so powerful that a lot of the fear, it happens unconsciously. Like, the movements and the actions you do, you don't even realize you're doing it. And some could say that's like a form of self-sabotage. I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into it, but maybe I will. Here's your bun and cheese, yeah. So good. Fear is crazy. It makes you do crazy things. But sometimes you need to do crazy things, especially in this world. You gotta use it to drive you. So where do the positive emotions come? What do they do? How do they help? I think the positive emotions help give a peace of mind, help bring everything back into harmony, help kind of allow you to be present at this moment. And honestly, a good combination of those positive and negative emotions, I feel like that's where you'll get the most, I don't know what to call it, you know, you'll get the most impact in whatever you're doing. If you're able to take the negative emotions, handle them with the positive ones, and go forward. Because in that way, it's like you're handling the fear with a peaceful heart. And so that chaotic kind of energy that comes with that vibration that sometimes like muddles your judgment and clouds your perspective of reality and just makes you that feeling of dread feel inescapable. When you use like the positive emotions and you bring in that sense of peace or love or, you know, just grace, it transmutes that energy into something you can really work with, that you can mold into something that you can use and for your own benefit, for your own motivation. You know, I think that like my friend, shout out Jake if you see this, bro, was saying like, how do you wake up? Do you wake up early and like how? And you know, I've gone through cycles of like waking up at like 4:30 and like meditating for a half hour and then like doing some mindful movement for an hour, and to a point where it's like wake up 10 minutes before I gotta go and like, you know, just drink some water and get out the door. We all have fluctuations, I'm sure. I think I'm in a more balanced spot right now, but I think that what's helped me a lot is knowing, you know, if I give myself, you know, love, light, joy, and peace waking up in the morning, then I will be sitting on my bed dozing off, like kind of meditating, kind of dreaming, and, you know, going through another sleep cycle. And that's just how it is, because I have the higher vibrations. I feel content, I'm satisfied, so why would I, you know, why would I even go? Why would I, you know, oh, nothing. Feels so good. It is so good. So good. This is good. So, what I did to wake up in the morning, I thought about the result if I didn't. What would happen? I wouldn't be able to work on my business, so I wouldn't be making any money. It wouldn't even be there. It wouldn't even be known. I wouldn't know you guys. So I had to wake up because the fear of what would happen if I didn't was greater than if I, you know, did, I guess, if that makes sense. And so that was a motivator. So if you ever want a motivation for your manifestation, yes, being a high vibrational being is great. Yes, you should learn how to harness those energies, but you have to also harness the lower energies as well. So if you're able to think about it, then let's do a little meditation together. This will be like a more casual meditation. You know, I'm not going to tell you to close your eyes or anything. I just want you to think of something that you would love to manifest in reality. Think of that vision or feeling. Maybe it's a phrase or a word. And just bring that into this present moment together. What does that look like? You know, what are you doing in that manifestation? Who are you with? What space are you inhabiting? Like, really think on it for a moment and just bring and be present with it. Just sitting and chewing on it for a second. So that manifestation is there now. What do you fear most? You know? Do you fear the reality of not having that manifestation? Which for some people, and why I feel like manifestations don't come, is because A, you can always bring excuses because you're actually afraid of your own potential and greatness, because it's scary. Some of y'all want like big things, and it's scary in reality, because like it's one thing to visualize it and feel it out, but it's another thing when it starts coming into reality. Like, I really thought I wanted to talk to all the galactic beings out there until I started acting very schizophrenic, and I was like, y'all are driving me crazy. Actually, I'd prefer if you don't contact me unannounced like this, and I'll contact you, you know? So this is something to be aware of. Okay, so let's go back to that manifestation again. Let's take a nice big breath in and just feel that feeling now of fear. What do you fear when it comes to this manifestation? And I feel like this is the most important thing, because if we don't acknowledge that a part of us is actually afraid of getting what we want and pray and, you know, spend all day, you know, mulling over in our minds, if we don't acknowledge that there's a little bit of fear within us, then I honestly don't feel like you'll have the motivation to get it. And if you don't acknowledge it, you'll just procrastinate. And it's kind of like watching at home workout videos but not following along with the workout. You're not going to get the results. You gotta do the work. And sometimes to do the work, you gotta like acknowledge that a part of you subconsciously might be trying to avoid doing the work because it might be afraid that it can't handle the manifestation. It can't handle all the greatness and the potential that you want. And that's like, it's a scary thing. And I know for myself personally, it's something that I deal with. I don't realize it. And I think when it comes to talking about it to others, what's up? I was scared to be a butterfly, but how could that be when I was a butterfly and the butterfly was me? Thank you, Michael. So the fear is so important. I think that it humbles you, first off, because you realize that you're human and you're afraid. And it might feel absurd to be afraid of exactly what you want for whatever reason. And you might be angry at yourself or have other negative emotions tied to that fear or that feeling of guilt or shame. And you gotta acknowledge that. And I think it will make the manifestation process a lot easier and the experience a lot smoother and more harmonious for you. Oh, what's up, Amir? What's up? Yo, you're the real ones, fam. So fear is real and fear is powerful. And it can motivate you to do the things. I know my man Michael, you shared a really powerful vision of two versions of you, one with fear and one without fear. And I feel like the one with fear was afraid of the fear. And the one without fear had come to peace with it and was fearless because the fear had no power or control over it, you know. And I've been thinking a lot about how do we fear God? What does that really mean if God is love? Why would we fear God? And it's really like as simple as you're gonna have this emotion, you gotta direct it somewhere, and if you direct it to the all-knowing creator, the greatest of all dimensions, they can transmute it into something that is helpful and very powerful. Fear is a really powerful energy. It can motivate you to get out of bed in the morning. It can motivate you to run miles. If somebody is, why do you think zombie runs are so powerful and effective? Because if a zombie was chasing you, maybe on a day where nobody's looking, running a mile is kind of, a drag. But when you got like some rando dressed up in a zombie costume running at you like they about to eat your brains out, you better believe that all of a sudden 5 miles doesn't seem that far. And it's that kind of concept that I think is so powerful and that we need to start thinking of how we can use that. What's up, John? What's up? And I always do what I fear, and that's really powerful. I think bringing this back to the manifestation that we brought into this present moment and thinking about, what comes to mind when we think of why do we fear it? Asking the question, do I fear this manifestation? Is there any part? I know for myself personally, yeah, I definitely fear this manifestation. I fear, what if things go wrong? Am I really able to handle what I want? And I have to acknowledge that, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. And if I didn't acknowledge this, I know that unconsciously this would be in the back of my mind, and everything that I do would have this motion going on, in the low key. Why must you fear the creator? It's almost like, why must you feel anything to anyone? To fear God is to ponder God, maybe. I like that. I feel like, for me, I've learned that the fear has to go somewhere. I could keep it within me. I could direct it to something else. But if I direct it to this being that I know deep in my heart is a part of me, has created me, is the reason why I am here, and also loves me, and loves that I am alive because it has brought me to life, then it's really almost like it's hard to fear them, but it's almost like a respect and admiration, and knowing that they do know where I should go. So when I say I fear God, it's more like I know that God knows where I should go. Like God, greatest of all dimensions, creator, oneness, Allah, Father, however you want to call, this omnipotent force of life, and source of all living creation, it knows why you want what you want. It has programmed the manifestation that deep in your heart you desire. That was a part of your programming creation. It knows this, and it knows how to get it. It knows exactly what you need to do to get whatever manifestation it is in your heart. Absolutely, 100%. It is there. Now, we don't really know exactly. We're kind of just like hoping, praying, maybe lighting a candle during the full moon, maybe doing a little ritual here and there, But we're doing this all with the intention and hopes that, like, the creator will be like, yep, that's exactly that's the blueprint that I set out for you, which it is, that will get you to this manifestation that you want in your heart. Sometimes, I think our heart gets a little clouded because of this fear. Because what does fear do? Some of us, I think, desire money. We want to manifest money because we have a fear of being poor or, being in lack. So is that manifestation really like the true core of your being, or is it something out of fear? So I feel like when you really direct that emotion, that energy of fear, and you really evaluate on what it is you want, why you want it, and the entirety and potential of what would happen if you got it, like how would you handle that? It's kind of overwhelming. I know for myself personally, it's kind of overwhelming, and I tend to question, do I really deserve it? Is really what I'm here to do? Will I actually ever get it? And all of these fears and doubts come in my mind. And I think at that moment when I realize and acknowledge the creator, God, oneness, source, Allah, Father, greatest of all dimensions, I realize like they already know. And if I fear them, in a way, I'm programming my mind to be motivated by the one that already knows my blueprint and knows how to get this manifestation, because they have programmed me for it. I don't even know the entirety of the manifestation. I just know deep in my heart I desire this. This is what God has put on my heart for me to experience, and I surrender and trust that I will receive what I'm here to receive. And then I believe that the most powerful way for me to get there is by using this driving force of fear and putting it somewhere that is clear and going to direct me step by step to get there. So that's kind of why the idea of fear, fearing God, is so powerful when you do it correctly, because it will kind of redirect any distractions, any influences that are not purely from your soul. It will just redirect them. It will be like, nope, keep going. This is how you get to the manifestation that's on your heart, that was purely given to you and was a part of your creation from the breath of air you first took on earth. Ultimately, fear must bow to the spirit and love. Fear is a cocoon and it's hard. Absolutely. I think that fear is the realization that I need to take a moment to retreat, and I don't know it all, and that's okay. Like, if we all knew how to get our manifestations immediately, then we all would probably have it. I was curious because some would say if you fear something, you're pushed to fear something, it really is something you want to give worship to. I guess that's more of an atheist perspective. Thank you. I love this conversation. I feel like I didn't say the text the most clearly, but Zorax, thank you, and thank you, Michael. I feel like, for me personally, it's all about learning how to use the emotions that you feel on a daily basis to direct them to where you want to go. Or even just being present in this moment. Because let's be honest, everything is in this moment. And fear is powerful. It's a wonderful way to motivate you to get to where you want to go. But you gotta be aware that you have fear. I do understand people that say I don't have any fear, you know. I feel like especially with the males out there, it's kind of like a thing that, you know, you gotta protect, you gotta be like stoic. Um but like I don't know. I just feel like I think it's very admirable when a man is fearful but still continues forth, but is conscious of this fear, versus a man that is suppressing the fear, if that makes sense. That is like, I'm not afraid of anything, you know, I got everything, like nothing scares me. Like, you know, it's just like, okay, understandable. I think that we all have this emotion. It's kind of being like saying like, I'm not sad about anything. You know, it's just like the emotions need to be brought to awareness because it is energy in motion. It is something that I think, like, we don't consciously, for the most part, insinuate any emotions. They just naturally flow. And I think it's a beautiful indicator that we can use, kind of catching onto the wave. What's up, Isaiah? Like we're surfing, and actually use that. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Yes. And that's really cool, Zorax. I feel like I love diverse perspectives when it comes to questioning God and theology, and in just finding what resonates with you, because, you know, everybody has a purpose here and a different perspective. And yeah, it's important to see what is true for you and to really test that truth. Fear comes from unhealthy stomach. Amir, what does that mean? What's good, Isaiah? What does that mean? I kind of feel you. Like, sometimes when I'm fearful, I will feel knots in my stomach, and I'll be like, oh man, it's hard to really digest. It's hard to, because all of the adrenaline is kind of like in my stomach, but I'm like fight or flight mode, right? But that's actually really good. Like, every race, I have competition anxiety, so every race, you better believe I was feeling a lot of fear because I was afraid of going and racing. Not even how my performance would be, just the act of racing against others was something that scared me. And but it was also a motivator because I would go really fast because I would be afraid. But that feeling, I should say, of fear, that feeling, that adrenaline, that nervousness, that anxiousness that comes with it would motivate me to move, because I would be like, well, the only way to get this out is by moving. And that is kind of what happens with fear, you know? Like, when you're afraid, do you just sit down and do nothing? Unless you're paralyzed, not really. If you're afraid of losing your house, if the fear is overwhelming, then you probably won't do anything. But I think most importantly, you'll probably try to find something to ease that tension of fear. I've been learning through spirit a lot about what you fear is just an illusion lately. Absolutely, Isaiah. I think that's powerful. I'm going to take a bite and really taking what Isaiah said, you know, fear being just an illusion, thinking back on the manifestation that will bring back into this present moment, and thinking back about that question of what it is that you fear about that manifestation, you know, coming true or being in your reality in this present moment, if it were to happen right now. If there's any ounce of fear in you, acknowledging it, and then seeing where that illusion may be coming from. I think we all can say that anxiety is like a lower version of fear, where we create all of these worries in our head that we think are going to come true or have the possibility of coming true. And of course, fear has a purpose to protect us, such as anxiety. But that in itself is just a precautionary measure, that if we don't, again, use the higher vibrations, use the peace, the joy, the love, the light, and grab hold of it so that we can observe it in a compassionate way and just see it for what it is. Like, okay, you woke up late. That doesn't mean you have to freak out. You and take a moment to just observe where you are. Everything has a purpose. Everything that you feel has a purpose. Fear is powerful. Learn what that fear that you feel, what the purpose is. How can you transmute it, pivot it, leverage it to benefit what it is that you want to create in the world? Yeah. And of course you don't want to create anything from fear because you don't want to, but like any emotion that is contagious, you want to take time to dissect that fear into its deepest core, which is usually just this deep vulnerability. Oh yeah, this is fire. I love it. It's so good. Like this deep vulnerability that is almost like a baby bird being ripped from the nest and thrown before it's even learned what flying is. I don't know why that came to mind. It's kind of scary, but having the motivation to face it, or I hope this video motivates you to face your fears and see them as a way to engage with life in a more healthy way. You know, fear doesn't have to be something scary, even though that is the nature of it. It doesn't have to be something that consumes you and makes you act unconsciously, because the more unconsciously you act when it comes to fear, the more you will go towards what you fear. That is just a fact. If you are afraid of drowning when you swim, your whole body will tense up, and the likelihood of you drowning increases a lot. And that's just an example. So why do we fear God? Because we want to get closer to God. And what we fear, we unconsciously run into. At least that's what I think. So what do you fear? I can hear somebody saying it now. I fear big titty goth bitches. And you know what? I'm not gonna say it, no comment on that. You know, that was all on me. Fear is definitely an interesting subject. Fear of the Lord, fear of being an illusion, fear just being the starting process of vulnerability and bravery. Anyways, so whatever it is that you fear, allow yourself to be aware of it. Be clear, and it is so worth taking time to acknowledge what you fear, because I think that's when you start living more. If you fear death, I think that you'll live your life in a way where you never are actually alive. You're just so afraid of death that it holds you back from being full of life and vitality. So, you know, let this just be a video to motivate you in not running away when you feel fear, but actually sitting with it for a moment, examining it, and see what you can do to leverage and motivate you to, you know, get closer to your motivation, your manifestations. Yeah. It says, do you think it's okay not to feel God? Or is that not a choice? Oh, to fear God, not to fear God? No, a lot of people don't fear God because you know, they don't really care. And that's okay, you know, like, I think certain rituals, you know, a lot of people fear not following the ritual because they feel like, you know, it's not going to lead to the result that they want. I think that God's a very loving being, you know, and so I can't really say anything for everybody else. I know for myself that there were times when I did not fear God and I did some really dumb stuff, you know. I was like, you know, I knew God was like, Esther, don't do that. And I was like, fuck you. And then guess what happened? It really was not a pretty show, is all I'm gonna say, you know. Like, I was just like, I don't really care, like, it is what it is. And then, you know, it's just like, dang, I really should not have done what I did, but, you know, I disregarded the obvious message God was giving me at the time, and so I had to pay the price. Yeah, so it's kind of up to you. Like, you don't have to fear anything, supposedly, but, like, it's gonna happen. the feeling is still going to be there, is what I mean. So yeah, I hope that you learn the lesson that fear has for you in this lifetime, and that you're able to really utilize the fear in a way that many people may never know of. You do, right? I think, if anything, these last few years have taught us the importance of evaluating the feelings that we have, especially when fear is a factor. If fear is a factor, take extra time to evaluate it, be aware, bring compassion, and just break it down so that you can understand and that you can be clear with what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah, man. Alright, fear is cool. Fear is connected to the unbalanced root chakra. So when you don't feel safe in yourself, then I'll bring this back down to the manifestation meditation that we started. The reason why it's not grounding into this reality is because fear is holding it back. A part of you will always self-sabotage yourself from getting what you want, because a part of you might be afraid that if you get it, what are you going to do now? B, you don't actually know what to do with your manifestation. C, you don't deserve it. And you're afraid that you don't deserve it, and that's why it's not coming. I don't know. These are some of the things that are just coming to mind that I feel like to share. So going back to the idea of the root chakra, like you shared there, beautiful soul, Amir, your real one. You gotta ground into this feeling. You gotta be okay with it being in your space, and you will, by doing that, actually allow your manifestation to take place. And you know how fear is an illusion? Well, if you take a moment to unmask the fear, then you actually can see that, oh, these are the steps needed to get to where I want to go. But you gotta actually step closer to the fear consciously instead of unconsciously, where unconsciously you try to run away from it because you're like, I'm trying to avoid this pain. You gotta walk towards it and have compassion, and then unmask it and see that, oh, actually this was just occupying the space where my manifestation is going to go, but I needed to face this as a prior stimulation to verify that I am of the level that can handle the situation, even if it is at its worst. Okay, I hope that kind of made sense. Games, man. Life is a game. So what about the argument with people that say should fear something that I can't prove? I don't know if it's an argument, bro. Nobody can tell you what to fear, I mean, they can try, but it's your emotions, so take it with a grain of salt. Take a moment to ground that manifestation. Woo! We are acknowledging the fear right now. And just like that, it just shifts its energy. It gives you more space to work with and flow with, easy and effortlessly. Now, this is your emotion, this is your life. Fear whatever it is that you feel will most help you navigate through life effectively. You can fear spiders. You can fear God. You can fear cantaloupes. There are many things that you can fear, but I want you to remember that whatever it is that you fear, it will motivate you unconsciously towards that thing. Okay, I mean, the thing with the spiders, maybe not, but it will influence your actions. Whatever it is, it will influence your actions. So whatever it is you fear, it will influence your actions. So it is important and very valuable to take time to evaluate what it is you are afraid of. Maybe grab a journal right now, and write it out Take some time to really ask yourself the question of, what am I afraid of? You know, bring to mind those manifestations. We just did a little grounding today to clear any fear and, you know, allow that manifestation in this present moment to come through and to be recognized and present. It's so beautiful. 3 doves just sitting on a tree flying. They're so cute. So yeah, thank you so much for joining again. You're a beautiful soul. I give this drink to you. And take a good poo. I don't know why. If you're on the toilet and you're taking a poo, think about your fear. Think about releasing them. Okay, that's the last thing I'm gonna say. Your girl Esther Joy is out. God bless. Namaste. And much love. I love you too out there.